Hello everyone, my name is Jeff Roberts, and today I'm going to talk to you about the triphasic model of strength training. This model of strength training was based upon the three phases of dynamic movement, the eccentric, isometric, and concentric phases of movement, and it is said that all dynamic muscle action is triphasic in nature. The Tale of Two Athletes. The triphasic model was developed by Cal Dietz of the University of Minnesota in 2003. He was training two track athletes with very similar lifts and size, and he noticed that one of them could throw a shot put significantly further than the other one on a regular basis. This prompted Cal Dietz to conduct an experiment with the bench press, and he noticed that the superior thrower was able to harness their energy more efficiently in the eccentric and isometric phases of movement. This kinetic energy is built up in the eccentric phase through the stretch reflex and the stretch shortening cycle, which we'll talk about here in a moment. The triphasic V model off to the right here is a visual representation of a dynamic movement through a full range of motion. The left side of the V is the loading phase or the eccentric phase. The bottom of the V is the isometric pause, and the right side of the V is the concentric phase or the force output, if you will. You will notice that the elite athlete has a superior advantage to the advanced athlete based on his ability to absorb and produce more force in a shorter amount of time than the advanced athlete. You will also notice that the right side of the V will never be higher than the left side of the V. And this is based on the principle that an athlete can only put out as much force as he absorbs. So the goal of triphasic training is to pretty much isolate each phase of a dynamic movement, so to make each portion more efficiently so it can all be brought together and you can create a greater force output in an extreme athlete. Focusing on the eccentric phase of a lift would be the lengthening phase. So if you were to do a curl, you would focus on lowering that weight down as slow as possible for 5 to 8 seconds, and you would follow that with a very quick isometric and concentric contraction following that. You would do this for a variety of lifts, and what this would do is train different proprioceptors in your body, which are responsible for the stretch reflex. These two proprioceptors are the muscle spindles and the Golgi tendon organs. The muscle spindles connect with the brain, and they pretty much tell the brain the length of the muscles at any given point in time. And the Golgi tendon organs are the inhibitors or protectors, if you will. And if they sense that too much force or contraction is being put on a muscle, they will prompt it to automatically relax in order to avoid injury. The Golgi tendon organs tend to be a little overprotective at times, so they tend to hold us back a little bit from what we're actually capable of. So by working on this eccentric phase, we desensitize the Golgi tendon organs and we synchronize the muscle spindles with the central nervous system, if you will, to find a way to harness more energy more efficiently through the stretch shortening cycle, which is responsible for absorbing energy within muscle and tendon to be used during the concentric phase. This is the kinetic energy that's built. You think of a rubber band, as it stretches, more and more energy is created. It's kind of the same thing with your muscles, if you will. Focusing on the isometric portion of your lift is responsible for the training of motor unit recruitment and rate coding. And this pretty much allows the athlete to produce more force in less time, greater rate of force development, and more efficient neuromuscular action. The motor unit recruitment, that is how many motor units are involved in a muscle contraction, and rate coding is the rate at which the motor units are fired. And to work on the isometric portion of your lift, that's achieved through a quick eccentric movement. So imagine a push-up. We're going to go down quick for the lengthening portion. We're going to hold for 4 to 5 seconds, and then we're going to follow that with an explosive concentric movement. Up to 85% of your 1 rep max is recommended for this. And after performing the first 2 phases, you will work on the concentric phase of your lift to create higher levels of rate of force development. And this pretty much brings everything home that you've been working for. You've been working on eccentric, you've been working on isometric, and then this synchronizes the entire movement and creates a greater overall output. And in order to work on your concentric phase, everything needs to be fast and controlled, max efficiency, control, force, and speed. So if you're doing a bench press, you want it to be light and you want it to be as fast as possible. How fast can we move that weight, if you will? This is very intensive, and you have to take a lot of self-care when doing this kind of stuff. I know that I'm over time, but there's no way I'm going to be able to fit all this into 5 minutes. But I did try my best, but we're almost done here. You really got to exercise as much self-care as you can. This is usually performed in the off-season or mid-season is when you would be working on your concentric phase if you were to implement this as a during the season training method. The benefits of using the triphasic model would be more efficient harnessing of kinetic energy within muscle fibers, increased recruitment of slow and fast twitch muscle fibers, greater rate of force development, and greater muscular force output. You would essentially work on each of these phases for 4 to 6 weeks, probably closer to 4 for each phase, and you would see much greater force output in your any dynamic movement that you want to see higher levels of output faster. So how fast can I move it? How much can I move? How fast can I move it is really what it boils down to. This style of training is typically used by football players, soccer players, basketball players at times, track, any sport that requires getting to point A to point B as fast as you can. Track athletes, power lifters, things of that nature. Not going to take any more of your time. If you have any questions, let me know. Thanks and have a great day. Oh, and before I forget, here are my references in case you were wondering. So, all right. Well, I can't move my big head out of the way, but if you'd like to see my references, I'd be more than happy to show them to you. Thanks, guys.